Welcome to Medicaid Mastery, a cut above explaining the real long-term care Medicaid system.
Hello and welcome to Medicaid Mastery, a cut above, explaining the real long-term care Medicaid system with Medicaid guru Tony Turbeville. I am your host, Kevin Rosenquist, and today we're going to talk about Tony's journey and how he became the Medicaid Whisperer. Tony, it's great to see you.
You too, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
So I'm excited to talk to you. The services you provide your clients are so incredibly unique and amazing. Let's get started. Now, you're not an attorney, but you are really known as the go-to guy for Medicaid planning for both clients and attorneys alike. How did this come to be?
You know, it really started by accident back in the mid-90s when I had a client who called me and said, you know, my husband went to a nursing home. What do I do? And I had sold long-term care insurance for a while, and I had suggested that they buy some, and they didn't. And I said, well, you know, I told you to buy long-term care insurance. And she said, well, I didn't. So now what do I do, smart aleck? She was like 76 years old. And I said, well, actually, I don't know, but give me a few days and I'll call you back. And I started reading everything I could get my hands on and kind of got an idea how it worked. It was not well known in the mid-90s, and called her back and said, okay, you're my guinea pig. I can't promise you anything, but I don't know where to send you, and we'll try it. And she was so happy with the outcome that she sent somebody, told the social worker at the hospital, and one thing led to another. And that was about 16,000 cases ago.
Only 16,000.
Only 16,000.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. How do you think not being an elder law or estate planning attorney, but rather becoming instead Florida's long-term care financing solutions company benefits both you and the people you work with?
Well, I think it really gives our clients the best of both worlds, because I am not an attorney. Back before in Florida, it kind of became a big thing about you have to have an attorney to do Medicaid, even though the federal laws say differently. So during that time, before that got kind of pushed to the forefront, it allowed me to really reach out and take some risk with client understanding and consent on some very cutting edge strategies. And those cutting edge strategies got challenged, and several I won, and they're still in use today. So it allowed us to develop strategies that otherwise would not be available. And then secondly, because all we do is Medicaid all day long, every day, 222 working days a year, we're just better at it than anybody because we just see a lot of it. Most attorneys do a case here and a case there. Even the ones that do a lot is 5 or 6 cases a month, and we do 80 or 90 a month. So it just allows expertise in our field, as well as the attorney having the expertise in the strategy and document preparation field.
Yeah, you've seen it all.
Client gets the best of both worlds. Attorneys get to be attorneys, and we get to do the administrative nightmare.
Good way to put it.
Yeah.
So what does the relationship between Platinum Benefit Services and those in need of Medicaid planning for themselves or their loved ones look like? Like how do they find you?
Well, typically they come to us from nursing homes that refer them, assisted livings, hospital social workers, home health care workers, happy clients that have used us in the past, and various places like that. And then sometimes from the internet. The way it looks is they call us or come in and see us. We do have field representatives that will come to their home or nursing home if need be, but we listen at first, tell us what's going on. Mm-hmm. And we're looking for not just the finances, but is this person going to be staying in a nursing home long-term? Or are they going to be going back to assisted living or home health care? Because each program has benefits for each type of care, but the benefits are different and some of the criteria are different. So we have to really understand where things are going. Then we dive into assets and income and, all the things that Medicaid is going to look at. And while we can't make a recommendation as to what strategy they should use, we can explain all the strategies available so they're educated when they talk to the attorney of their choice, which we will recommend several that know us well, work with us, know our systems. The attorney can save a lot of time. The client can too, therefore save some money, and they can, between the two of them, pick the strategy that works best for that family.
Okay. All right. So what are the main pain points you hear from your clients when you first sit down with them?
Well, obviously they're going through the trauma of having a loved one going into long-term care, and that's
Sure.
emotional. So obviously we hear those, but nursing homes in this area are $13,000 a month. So the first time they get handed a bill for $13,000, there's a lot of pain that runs through them emotionally. And then the nursing home, generally a business office manager tells them, we'll give you another one of these every month. And the pain's really bad. So they come to us saying, look, we don't mind spending the money on, our parents or my spouse, but if we don't have to, it's going to break us. We're going to be poverty stricken. And so we put them at ease and tell them, look, the rules are set up very similar to taxes in that if you know all the rules and you take advantage of the rules, you can minimize the pain. So you can go from the $13,000 a month bill to something much, much less, as low as zero.
Okay. All right. So that's gotta help.
It does.
Help the mood when you tell them that.
Yeah, we tell them we can't help the emotions of what they're going through, with their loved one, but we can certainly help the financial emotions, so to speak.
Yeah, like you said, that's a tough time. So they're sitting down, not in exactly great spirits and clear heads a lot of times. So that's really cool that you can provide that for them. What would you say is the ultimate goal when it comes to the planning you do with your clients?
It's to save every last penny that we can and get the loved one the care that they deserve.
That's simple. Yeah.
It's pretty simple. It really is.
Yeah. And where does someone begin the process of working with you and your team?
Making a call. They can call our office. They can go online to our website and request a consultation. They can call me directly. I can give my cell phone number, don't mind. I can walk them through the initial conversation. So my cell phone number, if anybody did want to reach out to me directly, is 863-838-5802, 863-838-5802. And that's directly to me. And while we're a company of 30 people, I always want people to know they can reach me. I am the final stop. So we'll get them taken care of.
That's really, really cool that you have that kind of, relationships with your clients. I think that's rare, these days, especially when you have a team like yours.
Yep.
Can you walk me through the first steps you take with an individual and their family?
Yeah, we kind of touched on it earlier in that it's going to be a conversation about what's going on with them, what potential solutions there are. And we always look at what fits for the family. So there's generally more than one way to get it done, and each has advantages and disadvantages. Mm-hmm. So we're listening to the family dynamics, what type of care, how assets are structured, what they are and aren't willing to do to solve the problem. So we really try to customize every scenario to the family. Now, obviously, again, the attorney has to determine what's appropriate, but we're going to customize everything with the attorney to meet the family's needs.
What kind of aspects do you look at when you're customizing, a plan for each individual? I mean, obviously every situation is pretty, for the most part, different. There's a lot of similarities, I'm sure, but how do you determine what the right situation is?
Asking a lot of questions. So, in some families, all the siblings, let's say it's a parent that we're talking about, and we're talking to the kids, sometimes all the kids get along and trust each other. In other families, nobody trusts anybody. And in some families, two kids trust each other, but don't trust the third. So all that comes into play. Sometimes, there is a strategy that attorneys really like to use called just say no. And it requires the person to say, I'm not going to pay for my spouse's care. Emotionally, some people just can't do that after they've been married 50 years.
Right.
So we'll find other ways to get the same thing done without them having to go through that emotional trauma.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be a tough thing I can't imagine having to say those words.
Yeah. A lot of people do, but a lot of people don't want to. And so we tell them you don't have to. There's other ways to do it, unlike most people in our business. Or attorneys.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite stories that are special to you that you could share with us where you might have been able to guide a family through the planning process and, save their resources and protect their financial future?
Sure. There's one that kind of ties into what I was just explaining. And it was probably one of the most moving conversations that I've ever had with a client. And I'm not going to be able to convey it fully, but the gentleman was, I think, 94, if I remember right. and his wife was in the nursing home. And so we were explaining all the strategies, and we talked about the just say no strategy. And he said, I won't be doing that one, son, and called me son. And I said, okay, do you mind me asking why? He said, no, I don't mind you asking. He said, that lady and the lady that lives next door to us were all in an orphanage together, and we all swore we would never abandon the other one. And I'm not about to say I'm not going to pay for her care. Of course, about brought me to tears. And I said, fair enough. We'll find another way to do it. And we did.
What other methods are there if people don't want to do the just say no?
Sure. So one of my favorites is one I developed back in 2008 that Medicaid said, we're not going to let you do that. And I took them to hearing and they lost. So now it works without question. And I call it the intrafamily real estate transaction, where the parent buys into a child's home and then puts the partial interest in the home up for sale, which nobody's going to buy. I don't know how much you want me to explain, but there's really no risk to the child's home. It keeps the cash liquid or whatever assets are being moved. And, perhaps I should tell your audience, with Medicaid planning, it's about assets, whether they're countable or not countable. And this is a little oversimplification, but countable is what it sounds like. They use it to calculate eligibility. Non-countable, they don't use. So the whole secret sauce to what we do is take countable assets and exchange them for non-countable assets.
Okay.
Well, if a family has $300,000 cash in the bank, somebody goes to a nursing home, one of the kids has $300,000 in equity in their $600,000 house, we're just going to transfer the cash to the child in exchange for a 50% interest in that home. Then we're going to make it non-countable by taking just that 50% and putting it up for sale. Now, I want to be clear, this is not the only way to do things. Not everybody can be comfortable with putting part of their house up for sale, but it is another way. Everything has its advantages and disadvantages, right? The beauty of that one is it keeps everything liquid. The family still controls the money, and there's no income tax.
All right. And that replaces, and then the other one, the just say no, is as simple as just saying no?
Well, obviously, it's not quite that simple.
Yeah.
But you have to sign a form saying you refuse to pay, but you can't do that until you have all the assets moved and structured correctly into the community spouse's name, the person living at home. And then the person in the nursing home has to sign over their spousal support rights to the state. There's a lot of moving parts to it, but essentially they're just saying no. And then you're plugging all the forms in the right place and moving the assets around as needed.
So needless to say, this is a complicated process, and it's best to have someone who knows what they're doing in your corner.
It is complicated. I have been blessed to make a fair bit of money fixing mess ups from other people, attorneys, and the families trying to do it on their own. And listen, I'm one of those people, if you don't need me, I'll tell you, you don't need me. And 10 years ago, I told a lot of people they don't need me. Today, it's much less frequent because Medicaid is just a nightmare. They're just the epitome of a government bureaucracy. It's hard to get through, even if you do qualify.
Yeah, I suppose the lesson here is don't try to do it on your own, because I would imagine that you have a lot of situations where people come to you and they've tried their best to do it on their own and it didn't go smoothly. Yes.
I'll give you an example of one real quick. They came to us and it was over a year that it had been denied, which, at that time was about $100,000 that they owed the nursing home. They came to us, hired us, we dug in, we found one little technicality that allowed us to go all the way back to the beginning, which is not the norm, by the way, but we got that entire roughly $100,000 paid to the nursing home, and it was one form.
Wow, what was one form?
It was one form, yeah, it really was.
That's a success story if I've ever heard one.
There are others, but that's a good one.
That is a good one. All right. Well, thank you for listening to Medicaid Mastery, a cut above, explaining the real long-term care Medicaid system with Medicaid guru Tony Turbeville. To connect with Tony and the team at Platinum Benefits, you can visit platben.com. And please remember to like and subscribe to the channel. And if you like what you hear, please leave us a review. Tony, it was great to have you here. Thanks for all the insight.
Thanks for having me. Good to meet you.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.